Welcome to Get Serious. Today I wanted to do another read through of this week's newsletter here. I got great feedback the last time I did this. I write this Serious News newsletter once a week, comes out Monday mornings. It's for free. If you haven't subscribed, you can do so on our seriousland.capital website. Or depending on where you are listening or watching to this, there should be a link below here. So I will jump right into it. And this one was titled, Why I Stare at Walls Now. So, what I'm thinking about. The price and pain of staying focused. The single biggest determinant of business and life success. I could write about this every single week. For example, I covered this in the top 2 business killers from the Land On Conference, or when I wrote about the transactional deal gone wrong. Heck, I even wrote an article called The Game of Focus back in 2020 during one of my earlier forays as a writer. You can find that on Medium. Search for my name and The Game of Focus if you want to check that one out. But the battle keeps evolving, and lately I had been losing ground, leading to another breakthrough, as I'll get to later in this podcast. Social research shows that people generally fall somewhere on a spectrum between dopamine-driven and serotonin-driven personalities. I'm not sure who first articulated this framework. It might have been when Tim Ferriss was talking with Esther Perel, possibly. If any of you can help me find the source, great. But it has stuck with me for years. Dopamine-driven people are reward-seeking, impulsive, prone to novelty and boredom. They're energetic, curious, mentally flexible, but also more vulnerable to addiction. Higher risk of substance abuse, ADHD tendencies, and relentless pursuit of the next hit. The upside? Intensity, experimentation, the ability to hyper-focus when something captures them. Serotonin-driven people are more stable, conscientious, and risk-averse. They follow rules, order, and build sustainable habits more easily. They're less prone to addiction, but may struggle with rigidity or avoiding necessary risks. These aren't mutually exclusive, obviously. Most people sit somewhere within each extreme on the spectrum. But understanding where you land on an average day matters so that you can be aware of the ups and downs inherent to each trait, particularly as they relate to interpersonal relationships, like spouses or business partners. For example, my wife and I are both primarily dopamine-driven. Besides the benefits mentioned above, on the downside, we have addictive personality traits that can spiral out of control, especially when one of us uses the other's lapse as an excuse to fuel our own descent into poor habits. Utilize this framework to reflect on your own core relationships. Personally, I've had an addiction to video games for most of my life. Played too many when I was younger, and this was during an era with less research into negative effects and non-existent parental controls. During several relapses as an adult, I convinced myself that I could just play for a half hour after a long day to decompress. That 30 minutes inevitably turned into 1 hour, then 2, then 3. Going to bed late, brain crowded with the need for a closed loop, playing far past any remaining enjoyment just to finish the game for completion's sake. This is in contrast to my highly financially successful business partner who's more serotonin-driven and can cap his video game playing at a reasonable mark without issue. I've had to come up with alternate strategies. Since I mainly played video games for the narrative, whenever there's a game update, I'll just watch somebody play through it on YouTube. or check out a summary. Far less addictive than playing myself, and it spoils the story, releasing the pressure valve of me desiring to play through it. As of recording this video, I haven't played any video games in over 2 years. But still, almost every weekend, there's inevitably a thought, well, maybe I can just start playing through insert X game. I'm reminded of something Dr. Andrew Huberman shared on his podcast with Dr. Anna Lemke about addiction. A friend who's 40 years sober told him, no matter how far you drive, you're always the same distance from the ditch. Deep addictions never truly go away. They always require conscious choice to stay on the path you've chosen for yourself. A lot of people would look at my outward conscientiousness and discipline as something inherent to my personality. But that's just because I have to overcompensate so hard to overcome my tendency toward distraction and addiction. Right now, in this season of life, I rotate my waking hours between 1, working, 2, nurturing relationships with family and friends, 3, physical activity, 4, reading, all tackled in a fairly militaristic regimen. That's what's been working for me. More recently, as my team and I have been working through particularly complex business problems, I've found myself getting lured into typical, for most humans with an internet connection, procrastination pathways. Checking my personal email, opening ESPN or CNN tabs for quick hits of headline stories that won't stay in my memory for even 5 to 10 minutes. My heart would start racing, and I inevitably feel more stress and overwhelm about my frazzled brain and lack of commitment to solve the hairiest problem in front of me. Over the last week, I made a commitment. I give myself the opportunity to check a few websites on my personal browser in the morning, but then it gets fully closed out and I can't check anything until after dinner. During my main work day, if I'm not doing the work in front of me, the only alternative is to sit and stare at a wall. Knowing that even if I sat and stared at a wall the entire day, that would still be a win compared to jumping back into digital distractions. Almost immediately, my work output and overall sense of fulfillment improve. Even tackling hairy problems is more enjoyable than staring at a wall. As an aside, a few nights ago, I had a dream sitting across a kitchen counter from my friend Dave Deniston, the Landon Conference. Dave was grilling me on our land funding criteria, and I was breaking down our underwriting tactics. Accurately, I might add, upon reflection when I awoke. When I'm dreaming about solving work problems and refining my pitch, that's when I know I'm locked in. I'll never forget the story from a keynote I attended by Manny Villafania, the founder of St. Jude Medical, where his team was under the gun to solve a critical engineering problem for an artificial heart valve. One of his lead engineers cracked the code for the right design, which is still in use today, by the way. And he solved it within a dream, which eventually contributed to a $25 billion exit. Bottom line, don't discount the potential of your dream state. Rewarding my recent upgraded sense of focus, we made significant progress on Landpricer AI. The last 6 months have paid off. So here's an internal team member message upon testing Landpricer. Thanks. The UI notes make sense, and hitting the 8 to 10 minute target mark is solid. And yeah, the current version is way better. Seriously, going from an hour per property review down to 10 minutes is a game changer. The progress from 6 months ago is huge. Besides that comp search bug, it's actually pretty smooth right now. Definitely pick Landpricer over our manual property reviews. It's easier to use and still gives accurate valuations quickly. Once we solve this pricing math, this will be really powerful. So with that in mind, Serious Land Capital is the initial customer we're building this Landpricer product for. If we won't use it, we won't release it to you. If both myself and everybody reading this, or rather listening to this in this form, maximized our ability to focus on solving the biggest problem, and then the next biggest problem, and so on, that's in front of us, our collective businesses and lives would inevitably reach the next level. Focus is an ongoing battle that requires different strategies for different personalities. Find yours. Fight for it daily. So hopefully that one was a fun little video for you all. These are fun for me to write and read off to you. I try to hit the right emotional beats here. Kind of the last little sign off there was, if you're looking for funding from a team that stays locked in on what matters, Serious Land Capital, we don't get distracted by shiny objects or market noise. Relentlessly focused on 2x margin deals, bulletproof downside protection, $50K minimum purchase price. You know where to find us. Again, I mentioned Land Daily Diligence as well, zero cost review of land deals, and Landpricer AI, which was just referenced, all the progress that we had made. So if you want to hear more of these or get the email, again, free email weekly on Monday mornings, you can subscribe at the link below or just check us out at seriousland.capital. With that in mind, subscribe and share, everybody. Looking forward to next time. Take care now. Bye.